Keith Kapera, Product Manager of Development, and Becky Naibert, Senior Product Manager of Infor. Keith, I'm turning this over to you. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Gloria. Let me share my screen here. And if somebody can just acknowledge that, see my PowerPoint there.
I see your PowerPoint, and Becky and I are going to go off camera so you can have this all to yourself. Keith, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Gloria. So today's topic is IDM, more than managing documents, and I'll explain what I mean by that as we go through the presentation. My slides are going to be brief. We're going to spend more time showing off the product, and we'll stop it a few times to allow you to digest, ask questions. We'll have a couple polls in there. Keep it lively. So there's three main functions of IDM that we need to discuss right off the bat. First is the core in the middle, right? So that's if you're already utilizing IDM, that's what you're familiar with. The ability to organize and manage your documents, store them in the repository. IDM is the final repository for any documents that you're bringing in. But the more than managing documents here is going to get into those other areas. So yes, we're going to recap a few of the core capabilities. I'll highlight the important ones, things like in context. But we're going to go into some other areas like the document output on the left. And what do I mean by that? That's the capability to do forms. So your SX acknowledgements, pick tickets, many other document types that are started as form templates. We have a Word plugin to go along with that.
Hey, James, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be, but I'm on this. I'm going to be starting in about 15 minutes.
Becky?
20 minutes.
So the forms output capability is that document output on the left. So we'll give you a live demo of that. And finally, if you get through those two components, the document capture on the right is our partnership with Episoft, which allows you to automatically bring in an OCR documents. And you can ingest from email. Those documents get exported to IDM, and we can actually create supplier invoices in SX. That is an add-on component, as I say, our partnership with Episoft, but it's a key part of the strategy for, again, the AP invoicing use cases. So crucial as far as defraying costs. I mean, the cost to process one invoice is running upwards of, $10 per invoice, and then the time that goes along with that, the time that you could redeploy your AP staff. We have other use cases as well, but we'll show you a live demo of that. Well, if your back room looks like this at all, and you're still in a paper world, that's what we're trying to get you out of. The storage space, the just paper handling. That's what IDM is going to help with. Or like that, we want to get you away from that and digitize all your documents. So that's what this is all about. So as far as the storage goes, again, the core functionality, we can do more than just PDF documents and manuals, and we can do pictures, videos, audio files. You can see the laundry list on the right of file types. Okay, so for anything that has a viewer, we're able to bring those documents in. So plenty of types, but you can add additional types as well. So let's go right into a live demo on this. We're gonna show you what that core product looks like. So let me go over to document management here from my app switcher. So that's how you're going to get into anything, any of the modules that you're entitled to. And we're in the IDM client now, and just a few minutes on how this client is arranged as far as shortcuts on the left. Okay, I've got the documents I've created. I can add favorites. The templates here is key because when we talk about the document output, these are the actual Word templates that we've stored in IDM. So it's centrally managed like every other IDM document type. You can see here the list from multiple types of pick tickets to remittance devices to consolidated invoices, checks, etc. So any IDM or any Infor module we want to have out of the box content, and IDM is going to be no different as far as document types, but also templates. So we'll show you how to manipulate these templates as part of this demonstration. Also, we have some saved searches here. So if you're always going to say, for example, I want to find, you know, AP expenses over the last 6 months, boom, here it is. You know, we skinnied up the list from thousands of invoices to a 1 or 2 page list, whatever. And that searching capability, let me show you here. First, here is that the list of document types that are out of the box. So if I scroll down here, you can see that it includes everything I think you'd need from, you know, trade expense invoice documents to statements, bill of lading, etc. I'm not going to go through the whole list. If it's not on the this list, we can show you how to create additional document types as well. So you may not need that, but you know, it comes in handy. You can also modify the document type. Let's say we predefine it with 10 attributes and you need an 11th, you can do that as well. As part of this too, you can do 3 kinds of searches. So you can do it by document type. I can say, just give me all the AP expense invoices. I can combine that with an attribute search to say, like we did in this saved search, give me AP invoices. And then I'm going to, let me go into expense invoice here and just do that full out search. And then when I combine it with a property or attribute and then say, like we were doing with the recent invoices, create a date after or equal, go to my date picker and back up a couple months to make sure I get something here, say, okay, do the search. And that's going to replicate basically what we did in that save search. When I go into here, you can see it creates a little query. And what's handy about this is I'm able to actually grab this query, which goes against the IDM images, save it and put it into a Mingle widget, for example, so that I can surface these documents, not only in this client, but where I'm working normally, which is going to be either SX or in a lot of cases, Mingle as the portal. So that comes in very handy. And then of course, if the documents are fully indexed and that's configurable, you may not want to do that for every document because it does take storage. If you configure that to be fully text searchable, then not only will it index by the attributes that you've specified for an AP invoice, like invoice date, invoice number, but any text that appears in that document as well. So 3 ways to search. And of course, you know, we won't get into some of the core capabilities. Obviously, it can do check-in, check-outs, add new documents, but that's, you know, basic stuff. We're going to go beyond that. That's still in the product. But I do want to go over and focus next. Let's go over to, switch over to Cloud Suite distribution. And so I've did an inquiry on a product, and now I'm going to reveal the, expose the in-context widgets on the right, and you've got multiple widgets here. One of them is a document management widget, and you can see that as I'm looking at the product, I've got the product image alongside it, right? So this is a pretty powerful widget in that it will allow you to go into IDM directly. It will allow you to collaborate and share an email right from here, print. So it's kind of like a mini IDM client that has, you know, 80% of the capabilities of retrieval and, you know, right in this widget. Another thing that it can do is, let's say I have another document that I want to associate, and this messaging is happening automatically in the background. When we create the document in IDM, it's got those keys of, hey, what is the company number? What is the product ID? We have some messaging that automatically is going to do that association. You don't have to do anything once that's defined. So when you add a new product and then you go in and inquire in product inquiry, it's automatically going to appear in the widget at right. But let's say I've got another document, and here I've just, on my other screen, I'm going to grab a circular saw manual here. And it says, well, do you want to add that file? Okay. And what do you want to associate it with? Well, I'm going to associate it with as a product master reference. And I want to use the IDM document type. Right now, I'll use product images, although we may create a new one called, instruction manuals or whatever. When I hit this additional details, that's the IDM indexing information that it needs to know. So the keys for that, again, are going to be company and product. And you can see it's already populated because that's actually coming across from the SX product inquiry screen. So there's nothing you have to do. In this case, if there were additional attributes, there would be a need to fill those in if they were required. And then you can make that a public or private document, and you just say upload. And it's going to add that to your list, and then that's available to bring up as a full document or go into IDM and collaborate and share with that. So we feel that's one of the great benefits of the integration between the ERP or SX and the technology stack, document management, and other components of Infor OS, right? So you get more than the individual modules. Truly, the cloud suite is greater than the sum of the parts.
Hey, Keith, can I just jump in here real quickly?
Sure.
I'm going to hold the other two questions that have already populated. But before you get off the screen, Bob Osborne said, you just showed a way to paste a query into the Mingle widget. Is it too complicated to finish that so that we can see it on a Mingle homepage? And then Jesse Owsley also tails on that and says, can I configure the content app further? And then we'll hold the other two questions for the official Q&A. But I wanted to just pop that in so that you know what people are needing to see on this live portion.
Yeah, we can do that. Let me see. Let me finish my thought here, and we'll go over to that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let me show you that Mingle homepage here. So go into home pages. And here we've got a bunch of widgets that goes nicely along with the capture piece, because when I show you the capture, when you can bring in documents, then how are you going to, what are you going to see if we have a workflow for expense invoices, for example, which we could do? Those come into a queue. When they get approved, they're in another bucket, right? We're showing that workflow from left to right. The ones that do get captured here, trade invoices, I can look at expense invoices, right? When I configure that, see if this is going to show. Here's where you would dump that query, right? So what I showed there, so this is saying the document is AP expense invoice, and it's got a timestamp here of everything since January 1, 2019, sorted descending, right? So we would have taken that string that we did in the search that I showed you and just cut and pasted into this query, and that's the documents that you would get. So you can have multiple views like you see here. I want to see expense, trade, and proof of delivery documents all in one widget. You can do that, or you could have them single threaded. The other question was, again, Gloria, can you repeat that?
You bet, I'd be happy to. The other question was, can I configure the app context? Can I configure the context app further?
So that a little bit. You can change. There's some things you can do to change the messaging to add additional fields, so that it'll communicate more than just the company number and the product ID, for example. To give it more capabilities than that, that's kind of a predefined widget. We'd want to get an additional widget that had additional capabilities. So it's kind of predefined in what that particular one does. Some of the widgets have, like the CAM widget for activity management, opens up to a full modal dialogue, and it's got 20 options on there. So some of these are more robust in the attributes that they take in, but the capabilities are what are presented there. Okay, moving right along because time's going to get short here. So we showed you the in context, and I want to just go back to the control center for a minute. So I'm going to go back to document management. And so some of the things you wouldn't normally see, right, are hidden in this control center, which would say, well, it's all boring administrative stuff, right? Yeah, a lot of it, but things like, well, I need a new document type, right? So, okay, let's create a new document type. Well, I want something called and let's just say next. And what does it want? Well, I need some attributes here. First is going to be a license number, perhaps. I'm tracking contractor licenses so I can see when they're expiring for my project job work. I can give it a type and a default value, max length, things like that. Continue on this process, for all the rest of the attributes. So I typically put in an expiration date and a contractor name, things like that. And then hit done, and I've got that document defined, make it public or private. With the security, I could say, well, I need a read-only user that cannot do any edits, right? So you can get more granular in the security. Once we've got that, it's going to appear on the list, and there's our TUG contractor license, okay? So you can go beyond the ones that are out of the box and easily create new ones. And then with that in context, like the messaging that you saw, we create if we wanted to affiliate this with a customer record, for example, we'd create one of those in context messages that is also in the admin center there in the control center, and you have the ability to associate additional messages. I know time because I want to move on to the two other features. Time's getting short here, but some of the newer things are like the bulk import. We have the capability now of saying, well, instead of doing this one for one, I want to just like the mass maintenance capability kind of or imports through Excel. I want to just blow in 1,000 documents by putting the file names into an Excel spreadsheet and doing it that way. So you can, and that's through a utility that's done at the Windows or level. So here is just a simple spreadsheet of, hey, what is the file path, what is the file name, and then any attributes that you're going to need. In this case, we just have a name and a status. You would fill out here, and we could ingest this entire list all in one batch. So make it a little easier. You'll go out to those folders and grab those files. So that's the new bulk import. There's new features coming all the time. I was just before the meeting looking at the roadmap, a lot of exciting stuff. So you've seen the widgets. We've got output to look at. Want to go to the next. So let's go back and if I can get back to the slideshow. Let's pause here for a minute before I go into the output, and let's Gloria, if we could take our first poll question, that would be great.
You bet. It should appear in the middle of everyone's screen right now. And we have well over 100 people that have logged on. We had 161 registered today. We want to hear from you. This is very important for Keith and Becky to know with regard to what platform you're currently on. And we're going to wait until we get about 80 to 85% participation. And we don't like to go past 45 seconds. So unless you want to hear me talk a little bit more, I suggest you smash that keyboard now. Okay, we still have some numbers populating. We're at 78%. Come on, jump out of the woodwork. We have 83 out of 105 online. We'll give it a couple more seconds here. 80%. I know you tuggers can do it. Come on and jump online. All righty, we'll go ahead and close that. And I am launching the results for you. There you go, Keith.
So very interesting here. I see we've got a lot still SX on-prem, a good number that have already migrated to cloud, some legacy customers there. So a good mix. You know, it just gives me a sense for where everybody's at and where you're headed as far as cloud migration. So with that, I'm ready to move on to the next portion, which is going to be the document output. If there's no more, I'll just quickly ask if there's any more questions on the core capabilities, and then we'll move on.
There are a bunch of questions. So I think in order to expedite time so that you can get to parts 2 and 3 and we can get to Becky, I'm going to take the first top 4 questions. And then I'm going to suggest that after Becky presents her roadmap, anybody that wants to be a hanger on after that 60-minute mark, I'm sure that Keith and Becky will stay here to answer any questions. So without any further ado, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Ido Meron asks, could you expand a bit about the document import utility?
Sure. So the bulk import that I was showing, there's going to be a you know, local client, okay, downloaded. So this is a download that you can do. It's an install. It's just a little bit of Java code, and it will actually give you a user interface. I don't have it queued up here to go, but it will prompt you for where that spreadsheet is that we were showing. So once you create that spreadsheet, it'll reference that, and it'll actually spin through and call APIs in the background. So it really doesn't matter how it's done, but it will tell you, let's say you had 100 files in there and 98 went through clean. Maybe there was some file name errors or whatever. So it'll tell you where there were errors in that batch. So it will expedite it if you know, as opposed to doing you know, file at a time kind of thing. So
wonderful. And also props to our tuggers because you're learning all about the upvoting. We just had this next question bump up in the query queue. And Chris asks us, does IDM replace Unform? And what are the advantages to Unform versus IDM, if any?
no, it doesn't replace Unform. Unform would, it does in terms of, it can in terms of the document output. Okay, so yes, it has same capabilities, similar capabilities as Unform. So I think you should look at what, you know, IDM document output has. Get a hold of me, and we'll get you you know, a demo if you need it. But yeah, it's the same basic capability of, hey, we're going to store your templates, allow you to modify them. We show you how to do that, and then going forward, every time you render an acknowledgement after you've made those changes, it's going to recognize those changes.
Okay. Next question, Paul O'Connor asks, can you prevent certain people from seeing certain document types? Example, we don't want our customer service reps to see completed credit forms.
Yes, yes, you can do that all through the security settings at the document type level. And there's also full auditing, by the way, to say, hey, this document, you know, who changed what. There's some good auditing capabilities in there.
And then Karen Ruggieri, this is the last question we'll take before we let you get on to your next segment. Whoops, Karen Ruggieri just kind of got bumped for a minute, but I'm going to have you answer her question because she's been so patient. Can an image URL be referenced in IDM instead of uploading the actual image to IDM?
An image URL? No, it's going to want the document itself.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Not a link.
All right, we're going to close the Q&A at this time so that you can get to part 2 because you've got so much content. So take it away.
Great. Thank you, Gloria. Okay, so next, second portion of this is going to be the document output. So that's going to give you the pre-configured forms out of the box. And we already looked at that laundry list of template types like acknowledgements. On the right, you can see some examples of the rendered documents. You can see that it supports things like barcodes, logos. But we're going to show you the behind the scenes on that in a minute as far as how you modify those in Word. And then so a little bit on the capabilities of that. So you may want to add new content, for example, right? We've got, you know, quite a few of the for like an acknowledgement, at the header level and the line level fields on the form, ship to information, things like that. But maybe there's something that you want to add. Well, it's kind of small here, but in the this middle portion, you can see level 1 extra fields and level 2 extra fields. That's allowing you to say that at the, you know, if you are familiar with the SX tables, that I want to bring in ARSC.custno and deliver that in this XML stream and eventually get it on the document. So that's one way to get additional fields. And you're going to be able to change the layout, template driven, leverage your word knowledge, and add things like images and barcodes. So with that, I want to also give you a live demo of that, because enough PowerPoint here. And let me get my browser back. So for this, we are going to flip over to Word and bring up that acknowledgement template. And so a little bit about what you're seeing on the screen here. So this is the raw version of that template, which has a bunch of XML tags, right? So don't worry about that. On the left, you've got some capabilities of doing things like looking up logos. Okay, so here you can see I've got an Infor logo that I want to bring in a minute. On the data file, you can see that this is the entire XML stream that's coming across. So SX publishes everything you need to know about that acknowledgement, and you can see field by field and level by level. If I touch on the acknowledgement header at the top, well, that's everything. Okay, so it kind of gives you familiarity with the data, so you know what you're dragging across. So if there's some things in this list that are not on the document right now, and that's what I'm going to show you. So we talked about the one way is to change those level 1, level 2 fields. This would be another way. So let me position my cursor here, and let's go back to that IDM image, right click on the Infor logo and say insert picture control. That's going to give me a placeholder for the logo. I can shrink it, make it bigger, smaller, right? And boom, there's my placeholder that'll render in a minute. But what if I also want to bring in something like the company name, for example? So I'm going to also know where my cursor is situated. Right click on that. This is going to be a plain text item. And you've got this ribbon in here. This is the plugin that you're going to download. Okay, available to download to anybody that's got entitlement to IDM, and say generate test PDF, right? And this is going to go through and do a render and give you the final output. So there it is. There's my logo. There's my company name. If I had wanted to, could have gone into any one of these areas and changed the formatting, added additional information, even at the line item level. If I have another add-on besides freight and taxes, I could add that in as well. One last thing I want to show you, these are basic capabilities. And let me see if I can find that. But there's other capabilities as well. For instance, there's the ability to do conditional formatting. So I bring up this property editor and I go to the logo, okay, and I want to hide that in certain cases. So right now it says, well, don't hide that, meaning always show the logo. But I say, well, I've got a condition where I want to, show this logo only for certain customers. So hide it if this condition I give is true. And I know from looking over it here at the left, what the system knows this field by is company know. If I just cut and paste that, or just it's easy enough to type that in, and I say, if it's 5,000 is the company number, which I'm currently running, don't show this. So we apply that. And if we re-render that now, we should expect a change. So logo's gone. So you could get fancier with that. Maybe you got a series of 6 logos that you need to do this if then else logic on. You're able to do that. One last thing on that is to understand that this is, what IDM is controlling here with this XML stream coming over is, all of the XML tags and what data is populated here. Everything else is standard word formatting. So if you want to bold something, italicize, change the font size, that's all normal words. So leverage your word knowledge. And things like free space. Well, if I want to tighten up this and bring certain of these tables up, you know, and you go into your standard word formatting and I turn on my paragraphs, well, you can see there's some embedded white space, right? So if I, you know, it'd be harmless to go in and take one of these carriage returns out and it'll tighten that space. Similarly with, these are word tables. So if I say, well, I'm still need to tighten some of this up. Well, maybe you have rows and columns in this table. Go into the typical table properties, go through your rows and columns and investigate what's there. So, you know, some of it's just, hey, grabbing additional fields over from here. Other is, hey, I can do all of that, a lot of that stuff in Word. With that, that's what I wanted to show with the output. And once you make those changes and you're ready to finalize it, you save that document, push it back to IDM, post it back, publish it, and then that's the new template that'll be used going forward. So with that, I'm going to pause again for questions and before we go on to our third topic.
So many questions. I'm going to table the ones that I think came in for the first portion of the program. So I'm going to start with Vincent Chang's question. It says, question on template. We currently use now forms in each type of document we have. Whoops. Templates for single page or multiple pages. Can we do this in IDM as well?
Yeah, it will support multiple page documents, of course. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And Chris Brown says, we are SX and version 11 on-prem with no plans to migrate to the cloud. Does that restrict or limit IDM functionality?
I believe it does. Certainly new things like the enterprise cloud printing, which is the new replacement for Google Cloud Print, is not going to be functional without being in the cloud. So that would require at least a hybrid Infor OS.
Okay, I'm bouncing between the chat window and my Q&A bubble. And so I'm going to go over here to chat. Jesse Owsley asks, can I access IDM documents with Burst or with other B1, BI tools?
So that would be an integration, right? So for instance, SX integrates to IDM in other ways. There's other screens that show product images outside of that in context widget. So that would be Burst going in and grabbing that document from IDM. And the way to do that in the Infor method was there's APIs to go and get those documents.
I'm going to mention this real quickly. Andy Barkus had posted a question to us, but it was a fragmented link. Andy was gracious and posted something with regard to support access on the IDM functionality. Andy, I'm just going to give you an audible and ask you if you'd be so kind as to drop that in either to us panelists or panelists and attendees so everyone can benefit from that. And then also Cliff asks, is there a way to associate a product image with more than one product at a time?
Product image with more than one product. You could, that's a good question. And it's not a multi-value at this point. So let me table that and see if we can get an example.
Okay. And then I'm going to give you one last question before we jump into your third phase to allow Becky to have some time here. And then we can come back. If you're willing to hang with us, Keith, we'll get to the rest of them.
I am, definitely.
Yay. This is kind of a two-part question, I think. John Owens posted, can IDM capture PDF attachments on emails? And also his second question on the heels of that, is batch scanning included or an upgrade?
So yes to both. Definitely can capture attachments on email, including the email body, if you want. You can capture, one document, 100 documents, mixed batch of invoices and bills of lading. So consider just to be a hopper of miscellaneous documents, and IDM capture is going to figure out, what goes where and classify those documents as it goes. As far as the batch, yes, the batch scanning, it supports Twain compliant scanners and can handle that as well.
I'm going to jump off here and let you go to part 3 because I know that you have a lot of content, and thanks for hanging with. Please stay tuned if you want answers to these questions that you've posted, because Keith and Becky are very gracious and hanging with us to make sure that you don't walk away with anything unanswered. So back to you, Keith.
All right, one last section and I'll hand it over to Becky. So IDM capture, just one slide here to give you an idea about how that flows, and then we'll do a quick live demo. So IDM capture is our branded solution that is our partnership with Episoft. We feel that they're best of breed in OCR. You wouldn't want to write an OCR engine on your own. It's kind of geeky, complicated stuff. But the flow here is to capture those documents in any of these manners through scanners, multifunction printers, folders, and as was pointed out, email ingestion is going to be one of the common easy ones. Your vendors send in your supplier invoices via email, and you just it'll pull that email inbox every so many seconds, ingest them into IDM capture and post them. That image processing there says, hey, I've got blank pages, I've got cleanup, I've got despeckling to happen, a lot of pre-processing. Then I got to say, hey, again, like we talked about mixed batches, what's an invoice, what's a bill of lading? Well, you know, it's smart enough to know that and can split those out. The extraction is the fun piece that's actually going to use the OCR to say, hey, I found the invoice number, the invoice date. There's going to be some business rules in the background. We're going to set up some of those vendors before you deploy. We can do things like database lookups for the vendor. And then the validation says, hey, you know, I had some problems. This is an exception-based process, meaning if I've got a batch of 100 invoices and they're all clean, they're not old fax forms, they're going to go sail through all the way through to IDM and SX. If there's another batch that has, again, 1 out of that 100 that had an unreadable form, an unreadable column, it's going to say, hey, I got to present that to an operator for them to look at and maybe override that, determine, you know, what that field should be. And then finally, that last step is to get the 2 components, the document over to IDM in the repository, and in the case of supplier invoicing, actually create a supplier invoice transaction in SX.e, both expense invoices and trade invoices. Not only invoicing though, we're getting into other use cases like actually creating sales orders, creating these, you know, certificate documents, tax certifications, things like that. So there's any number of use cases, but you know, the supplier invoice is kind of like low-hanging fruit. Looking at the time, I will promise just to use a couple more minutes and then I will wrap for sure. Going back to here is, I'm in the, so Episoft Transact is the Episoft name for their product that we're integrating with. And this splash screen is just going to allow me to go in and say, hey, I'm going to look at my batches, get logged in here. And I just got one sample batch we're going to look at. So I have already loaded these documents in. And I've got a series of 5 invoices. Now this could have come in a lot of different ways. It could have been one a PDF or TIFF with 6 pages. It could have been separate pages. These 2 pages could have been separated or together. It's able to assemble, disassemble, and classify automatically. You see some green and red along the left edge. Hopefully you can see that. And it's already focused me on this Doc 3 invoice because over here somebody's sat their coffee on top of my document and you can't read the invoice number. So if you see over here, it's also color coded the columns to say, hey, but I can't read the invoice number. I start to type in that number and well, it still doesn't like it because it's looking for a certain pattern. When I hit a 4-digit number anyway, that's the rule it was looking for. It says, aha, you're good to go. There's controls over here that you can zoom in. You can also, you know, look at what was OCR'd to get a better look at that document. The other one was stopped because there's something called a confidence level. If I click in there, it says, well, the OCR confidence was 64. We were looking at for an 87 value. Don't ask me what those actually, you know, I mean, it is a number that tells you that something was less readable. If this came in from a fax form, it would probably be a lower number than that. You have total control over what those confidence levels are. So for instance, you may want the amount to be a high confidence factor and that it screens more of them out and brings them to the operator's attention. But you can see all the other ones are green. We've got single page, multiple page here. It handled that automatically. We would then say, yep, we've got that validated and it'll go through. Just a couple more things for a trade invoice. It's also going to handle the line items, right? Pick up quantities, unit prices. I want to show a slightly different one. Let's see on this one. And on the first one, I'm sorry. So here we picked up a bunch of line items and we talked about validation. If I just fudge this extended price, it says, wait a minute, you know, it's done the math and the extended price doesn't work out. So here I could revalidate the vendor's math and say, well, you're using old tax tables, or, you know, there was an error here. As soon as I change it back to what it started, it's ready to go. So just a quick look at what you can do with the capture solution. You know, to reduce your processing costs on invoicing, but other use cases as well. Let me just quickly go back to my deck here. And we are going to wrap. So final questions, and I'll turn it over to Becky.
I'm going to just take one more question as Becky takes control of the screen. Becky, you can go ahead and start that transition. The most recent question that populated was from I take that back, was from Isabella Lagoka. Are the output templates available to on-prem customers?
So that's all, I believe that's now, that portion is supported on-prem. You just wouldn't be able to do the enterprise print.
Okay.
But there's a minimal configuration, and I get that. If you give me an email, I will get you the exact requirements.
Okay, if we can do that. The other thing that we can do too is when we get to the end, if you can share your contact information where they can email you directly.
Certainly, you got it. Put that in chat.
Well, without any further ado, Becky, you've been most patient. Let's give it up for Becky. This is Keith and Becky's first time doing TUG programs today, so she's going to guide us through the roadmap. Take it away. We're going to go off camera
Gloria.
now.
All right. Thank you, Gloria. Keith, that was really great stuff.
Thank you, Becky.
So, hey, guys, I'm here to talk about distribution, what's new in our November release, as well as what's on our roadmap for several of our products. But before I get started, I've got to make a little plug here for Inforum Online 2020. I don't know if y'all have had an opportunity to log into that. There is no cost to you. It's available till December 15th. You can access it from inforum.infor.com. There's tons of content in it. There's a tour, there's a digital backpack. It is cool. So get it, if you get a chance, try to get there before December 15th because it will be pulled offline after that date. So you've probably seen this slide before. It basically just shows the complete solution map for Cloud Suite distribution, all of our optional products and our Infor OS that is part of Cloud Suite distribution today. First thing we'll talk about is a little bit about our momentum. You know, we're all trying to get to the cloud, and so far we've got 216 customers signed up for Cloud Suite distribution. We've got 73 that are live, and we have provided over 300 enhancements in the last 2 years. And in regards to service and rental, we've got 43 customers, 31 are live, and over 100 enhancements. Now here comes Rhythm. It's coming up. They have 18 Cloud Suite distribution customers coming up. There is one that's live, and over 100 enhancements have been added. So that's it for the stats. Let's talk about what's new. You've seen this disclaimer slide. I'm talking about future stuff in a minute after I talk about the November release. So, you know, things could change. And so don't hold my feet to the fire, please. So again, a few more stats. I just want to point out that we have 21,347 users in the cloud today. It's pretty exciting. one of the first features that I wanted to highlight under Cloud Suite distribution is we now can store that receipt of goods signature. You can capture it using the old Topaz devices. You can capture it using the SINPOS credit card device. And it's for receipt of goods. So the signature is stored in IDM. You can add it to your invoice template. Keith, we should have connected on that one. Maybe you could have shown that in your demo. My bad. And but the process hasn't changed as far as capturing that signature. It is still the same. And this is one of my favorite features in a while. That's to core product. We've improved the order hold and review and release process. It's an option, so you can turn it on if you want to, but it's pretty cool. As you know, in the past, we had an approval type field, and it was yes if that order had no holds and it could be released to the floor and get processed. And then if it didn't have a yes, then it had various hold codes. Some were system generated, some were user definable fields. We've now expanded this functionality to make that field a yes or no field. So either yes, it's approved, or no, there are some holes. And then you can inquire on the holes. You can inquire on each and every hole that order validated for. You can assign security to people to approve those hold codes. So looking at, your sales folks will have sales hold codes, and your credit people will have credit hold codes, and others. And you can do user definable ones. We've actually added a SASTA table for this one. And so it is really fully featured out. Take a look. I think you'll like it. And this is the roadmap in general as to what, this is what we released in November for Cloud Suite distribution. We've already talked about the first two. I just want to mention that there are some API calls that were updated for order creates, order changes, and also one for a shipping interface for that enables some additional freight data for direct WTs. We added foreign currency to the GL balance matching activity report. We have a long laundry list, and anybody out there using the 820 inbound, that is for like the AR lockbox transactions where you've got multiple ones. We can now support those. And there are 3 features for storeroom that were added as well in November. One, to allow security around those managing returns based on inventory type, customer owned or distributor owned, as well as the ability to automatically import or to import your employees into storeroom, which will speed up the process of manually entering them, and as well as the ability to see who issued an order or who issued product, the username. In the past, it was a number, and it was hard to research. So those are a few of the Cloud Suite distribution ones. I wanted to point out, if you saw the roadmap for October, this one slipped by me. Sorry about that. I should have pulled it from the roadmap, but I didn't do it in time. We had 3 features tied to burst that were supposed to go out in October. There was a little glitch in burst, so now they're coming out in December. So you get a new GL trial balance report with the burst content. You've got some extra data sets that are enabled for extraction. And also we have several drillbacks that were enabled as well, and they'll all coming out in December. And for Cloud Suite Field Service, there are 1,200 users in the cloud. One of their big features that came out in November was the warranty claims report. That is now available. Also, the standard repair times are now available for all types of service orders. Prior to this, they were only available for the warranty claims orders. And then in regards to customer units, they're displayed in other areas of service and rental, but we've now added it to the incident screen so that you can see the customer's unit on that incident. And last but not least, this is one that several customers have asked us for, which is the displaying the SX.e invoice number on the Cloud Suite Field Service invoice. I don't know if you've noticed that I've interchanged Cloud Suite Field Service with service and rental. We are going to be going through a name change. We're not there yet, but to be coming. And so we've pretty much talked about most of the features that I feel like you need to be aware of. Of course, all of these features in November are on your release notes in the Infor support portal. I wanted to bring this slide in just to show you how much content that we've added with distribution analytics, which is powered by Burst. We've got accounts receivable, we've got AP, we've got GL, sales, inventory, and purchasing. Those are all available today. There's tons of content, several dashboards, reports, and KPIs for each of them. The one on the far right is TWL dashboards. I highlight it in yellow because it's coming in December. It will be here soon. Okay, and I'm going to speak to Rhythm as well. There were 5 enhancements in November. I want to just talk about one of them that would affect Cloud Suite distribution. As you know, Rhythm is used for a lot of Infor products. So this is a feature where they've updated how the your reference field is sent now to the ERP. When you change an address, you do an ad hoc address in Rhythm, and the order gets into Cloud Suite distribution. It's going to be in a different location in the user area, so that it's easier to find and it's more consistent across all the ERPs. And I'm just not going to talk about the rest of those. So now we're talking about future, so don't forget that disclaimer. And Cloud Suite distribution, you know, I apologize. I know the screen is busy. Keith did a great job. I did not reformat the roadmap, but there's a few things I want to point out that you need to be aware of. Things that are coming in December. We're adding the fraud protection detail for an API call for value-added tax. Shout out to the UK folks. Long-term surplus for ICIA, POERA, and WTERA. Sounds simple. This has been on the books for a while. Shout out to my AIM users that put this in back in 2003, believe it or not. So we made it. I'm sure y'all are saying amen, Becky. So see the TWL content, and I've got some screenshots to show you here at the end that I think you're going to get real excited about. And again, for the UK users, we've created support for those non-control characters like that pound sign that they need to, use in their use of the software. I say it's for the UK users. We're going to release it for them. There is a bit of a time thing that we've got to figure out because the index has to get rebuilt. And so we've got to figure out a better way of doing that to get this out to the US folks, because there are other control characters I know that you guys have asked for. I've seen it just recently. And so moving down this list, the new 1099 NEC form for 2020 is coming out in December. And going into January is a whole lot of Cloud Suite Field Service or service and rental, however you want to call it. Transfer order receipts, sourcing non-stocks. We added the ability to pick tickets for Cloud Suite Field Service orders from within Cloud Suite distribution. And re-rent is coming in, the re-rent POs for Cloud Suite Field Service. warranty claims process and reconciliation. One other thing that is not Cloud Suite Field Service is customer forecasting. That's coming out in January, an enhancement to that so that we can include lead time to help for those ramp up periods for the PO replenishment process. And storeroom is, we have a feature coming out to allow returns of serial in lot and bill on receipt products. Now, as we look ahead, it's there's tons of stuff, and I know I don't have a lot of time. Oops, I'm getting really close on time. I'm going to jump through this. I think that you guys have seen it. You know, we're working on Mexico localization. We're working on promotions. We're working on TWL barcoding and that kind of stuff. And in field service, we've got a lot of things on the books as well for future. I want to get to the screenshots of what we've got in development so I can share those with you. Analytics, I need to stop at analytics though. I need to let you know that we are, you know, we've got the TWL dashboards, but we're also looking to add warehouse transfers, value add, C-suite, and also storeroom and Cloud Suite Field Service packs. And so here's what's in R&D and development. You all know we've been working on the RF devices for HTML5 for a while. Infor Go is pretty close to allowing Cloud Suite distribution available for tablet devices. This is really cool, guys. We are putting Cloud Suite Field, we're redoing the UI for Cloud Suite Field Service to make it look like CSD, and we're embedding it in Cloud Suite distribution. So you'll be able to run Cloud Suite Field Service from within Cloud Suite distribution. How cool is that? Here are those TWL analytics: picking, receiving, put away, cycle count, and then finally, last but not least, we have a rhythm enhancement, an email template enhancement that will allow customers to enhance them or modify them with their own details. I am to the end, finally. Sorry about that. And I really appreciate your time today. Back to you, Gloria.
My pleasure. Becky, I have a question, but I think we probably should table this because due to time, and we have to have a hard stop at about 8 minutes after the hour from other commitments. So the question that was posed to you in particular said, could you describe the new sales cost for pricing setup? But I think that's a very complex answer if I would kind of knowing what I do about TUG. And I think that should be either taken up with channel partners or individual sales reps. Would that be a correct response?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just didn't want that to kind of go by the wayside. And let's see. And I think the majority of things here are going to be for Keith. So Keith, if you want to jump back on camera and let us see you, we'll all stay on here like one big informational party. First question is, are you or someone with your knowledge of IDM available for consultation to get us started using IDM, looking for help setting up a custom doc types plural, and starting to use the document templates?
Yeah, we'll get you myself or someone that can answer questions and get you a demo if need be. Certainly. So all I need is a contact.
I have dropped Keith's information again into the chat bar. It's there 3 times. So make sure you grab that, Mark, and then you can reach out to him and set that up. Next one is from Steve Sutton. Steve says, can I make logo choice dependent upon data on the form, different logo for different company number or warehouse, for example?
Yeah, I think that's what we were showing, that by having that condition on a company, I could have inserted a second logo to say, now only show this for company X and show the first logo for company Y. So yes, that is possible.
And Jesse Owsley says, can the search be configured to hide or only display certain attributes by document type?
It can. There's a way to say, you know, these are the ones I want to expose in the UI. So yes, it is doable.
Always
all in that control center.
Yeah, always in the settings. Raymond Moss says, I heard that IDM document creation is only available to cloud customers. Is that true?
No, that is not true.
Okay, good to know. We get it directly from you. Sherry Nichols says, are these the same product images that appear in Rhythm?
Rhythm has its own database. Okay, and now that's subject to change because but today that's a different catalog. So
Okey-doke.
no.
Okay. Here's two kind of questions coming up. And one of the things that I love about TUG and is so important on the forums exclusive to members is the collegiality and helpfulness of everyone that is in our membership organization. Rose Ketterer posted, for statements, can you hide a row of data if the invoice date is after the OEM? And Leela Keller says, if you did, how would that affect the totals? And wouldn't that cause confusion to the customer if the list of invoices didn't match the totals? Can you add anything to that, Keith?
You can do some hiding on the row based upon attributes. I won't get any more specific than that because there's with the version of XPath is more limited in I think it's on 1.0 right now. If they get to 2.0, be much more robust. So as far as date type logic, I don't have any specific examples. The simple one I showed is just company number equal whatever. And then yes, it would cause confusion if you're not syncing the rest of the document and you've got a total that is not, looking at that subtraction of that line. So that would have to be, that logic would have to be worked out so that the math works out.
And then Leela posted, she said, can you use the word art functionality to format text in the documents? And Rose Ketterer jumped in and said, yes, all word functions are available. And Leela said, thank you. Anything else you'd like to contribute, Keith?
No, but please, any additional questions that come in after this webinar, please get them to me and we'll get them answered.
Okay. And then Daniel Therese says, is Cloud Print and the IDM form supported with a hybrid cloud environment? And can IDM APIs also be accessed from an on-prem version of SX.e in a hybrid environment?
Yes, you should be able to get to the Cloud Print with a hybrid setup. That's going to use an enterprise connector now, as opposed to the Google Cloud Print, which is just a little piece of software that's installed locally that does the communication with ION.
Wonderful. Vincent Chang circled back and said, let me clarify my last question on templates. Can IDM use different templates for the same type of document? For example, use one template for single page invoice and use a different template for multiple paged invoices.
So not through the UI today. If you go into the SX settings, it's, this is what I want to use for Pig Ticket. This is what now there are multiple for warehouse transfer documents. So there's some multiple flavors of some of these documents. But what Vincent is saying, the way you would do that today would be through API calls. So any of this document output logic is exposed via ION API calls. And you could configure your own process to say, hey, let me swap out the template name within that IDM, that API process. But you'd have to write a little, script to do that.
Okay. Next question. We're blazing through these. Jolene Meyer says, you mentioned enterprise printing is only for cloud. How do we print these forms from the SX.e if we are on-prem?
Well, it does require, Infor OS in the cloud, so it would require a hybrid environment.
Okay. I just want to jump in here. I'm starting to get questions as to whether or not this session will be recorded. Due to intellectual property, as shared at the top of the hour, you can't capture anything, and we also are not recording the content. And the invitation says live only. So glad that you've stuck with us this far, Tanya. Next question, Chris Burns says, how would signature capture work for deliveries on company fleet?
Yeah, that's changing, and maybe Becky has some knowledge of this, but there's some capture from proof of delivery that's
it's proof of delivery. Yeah. We have a product that will allow
Becky,
you to capture it.
And that was a 1-2 punch because Chris posed one question right after the other. So
And there is some that's on the roadmap too, to do additional signature capture. But again, I think that's, pending on the roadmap.
And
It
then
is on the roadmap for POD. It's coming. It's coming.
Cliff Kelly says, is there a way to associate a product image with more than one product at a time? Didn't we
Yeah,
cover that
that was asked previously. I'm gonna get
thought
back
so.
on that one.
Yep. And then Kim Marcy says, I'm setting up my IDM templates and want to add the signature now that it's available. What field is that stored in?
I don't have any information on the signature for as part of that, so I'll have to get back.
Okay.
I think that that's in the release notes.
Okay. And then Stefan says, CDS reports in Excel format, ballpark release time frame.
Summertime is my best guess, but that's not firm.
Well, that's good. That is good to know. I literally cannot believe that we blazed through that with about 30 seconds to spare on the trusted clock. Can you believe? And so what I would like to say, first of all, is a big thank you, Keith, Becky. You guys were an awesome 1-2 punch. No one would ever know this was the first time that Becky has presented with us for TUG and in this format. So special thank you to you, everyone that jumped online today. Quick reminder, if you still have any questions, post them to the TUG forums. That's the greatest place for our Infor people to jump in and engage with you in discussion. Keith has dropped his email address in the chat bar. And also, for those of you who are not yet members of TUG, I have to say, why not? Go to www.theusergroup.org and join today. And on that note, everyone, have a great rest of the week and weekend. Bye now.
Bye.